the kings of the offseason baseball right now. It's going to be a really intriguing season to see how this huge market Los Angeles plays out this summer. But so Hamilton, the deal is 5 years, $125 million. And DK, you made a point earlier. That, by the way, that's the second highest yearly salary in baseball right now, $25 million a year. But DK, you did make a point earlier that I wanted to allude back to, is that, and this kind of goes back to my thinking, Hamilton's a great player. I mean, I'm not, just because he had a few months where was terrible last season, that don't mistaken that for the fact that we believe that he's a bad player, because he's a really, really good player when and there's a couple things important. One is health. He's not been healthy for the majority of his career. He's gotten hurt for much of his seasons. I think last year he was on the DL, and a few years back I think it was 2010, he really struggled. I'm going to pull that up real quick. In 2009, he only played in 89 games. Last year, 48 games. 2011, 121. So he's been missing about 25 or 30 games a year. And that's a concern, especially for a corner outfielder. And historically speaking, corner outfielders have really struggled to stay healthy, especially when they're on the other side of 30. And Hamilton's 31 right now. And like you said, DK, not especially in the short term, but in the long run, when he's something like 34 or 35 years old, it's going to be interesting to see what Angel fans think of this contract then. I'm sure Dodger fans might like it by then, but
a little Freudian slip there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the thing about Hamilton is that he swings at the highest pitches outside the strike zone. He's a free swinger, but he's like Pablo Sandoval, like Vladimir Guerrero. He's able to make contact with those pitches a lot of the time, and he's a mistake hitter. The concerning part to me is that that's not really a sound strategy, because Hamilton's last year, he had one of the lowest contact rates in baseball. He struck out a lot. I don't really know if that can continue. Hamilton is just a supernatural talent, so perhaps he can be one of those guys like a Vlad that can have success swinging at everything, because Hamilton's shown over the years that he can. But as your bat speed goes down, when you're north of 30, it can really slow down, and especially
reaction time.
Exactly. And Hamilton, obviously the move to left field does increase his defensive value. Center fielder is not a good center fielder, but as far as defense goes, I think he should be fine in left field. But again, that's another thing where injuries because of his knees, those can wear on him, especially in the outfield. He's going to be running around a lot. Expect for his defense to decline. I'm almost certain that he had a peak season back in 2010, where he won the AL MVP. I'm sorry. He hit 359, 411 on base, 633 slugging, hit 32 home runs. That was his MVP year. He was outstanding, but that is definitely going to be, well, I shouldn't say definitely, because anything can happen, but that looks to be about his peak season, and it looks to be all downhill from here. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on the contract, but for me, just to finish it up, in the short run, this is a move that's going to help the Angels.
Oh, for sure.
Because he's a good hitter. However, I will say, Torrey Hunter had a great year last year. And
contract year.
Yep, Hamilton, and Hunter's now on the Tigers, but Hamilton's going to replace Torrey Hunter. And I know this is a controversial stat, but if you go by wins above replacement, which is a stat that measures how many wins approximately a player is worth, Hamilton had a worse WAR, wins above replacement, than Hunter last season.
Really?
Exactly. Yeah. Hamilton had around a 4.5 WAR, and Hunter was around a 5 WAR. So they're about the same level last year. Of course, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be the same this year, but it's going to be interesting because Hamilton, obviously, we know the upside is there. But I think in the long run, this might come back to haunt the Angels, but in the short run, they're definitely a better team.
I was going to say, I think it's funny that you mentioned Vladimir Guerrero, because he went from the Angels to the Rangers, at about 31, 32, and I think he signed between a 4 and a 5 year contract, almost like this. I mean, the money wasn't similar, but I almost feel like, the career path is almost similar in both ways. And for the Rangers, that investment, as you said, was good in the short term, But the last couple of years of that contract, he was basically burning them.
The Angels.
You know.
Angels.
No, the Rangers when they got Vladimir from the Angels.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right.
Yeah, for the first couple of years, the Rangers benefited from that contract, but the last 2 years, I would say he was burdening their salary more than anything, you know?
Yeah.
Because he was definitely batting in the low 200s. His on-base was low. He was striking out at an alarming rate.
Yeah.
And he wasn't hitting those home runs to offset the alarming rate.
I don't know. I don't know. I guess I'm a little pessimist about this contract. Like you said, when you come off a bad season, we're at the end of his season, he had a bad season.
Right,
I mean,
right.
We're not saying last season was good. Yeah, he
He
had
had 43 home runs last season. We're not saying he's bad, right?
Right. He's not bad.
We're just looking at this going forward.
Right, looking at this going forward, like you said, people start declining when you get to an older age, and you're giving him 5 years. That puts him at 36.
Absolutely.
That's a huge amount of money for 5 years. And yeah, it's baseball is just like every other sports. It's a what have you done for me lately kind of game. And if he comes and he really screws up his first year in Los Angeles or Anaheim or whatever, then I think it's going to be a real big issue for them. Like you said, it's going to be a huge contract, a hole for them. And I don't see it getting better from here. You know, he's only batting 300 for his entire career. And like I said, this is going to be a declining year maybe. This could be a change of scenery now. He's been in Texas for 5 years. So now he has to come out to Southern California. Sure, the weather's very similar, but a different style, you know. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, too, that the Rangers ballpark is really conducive to home runs and hitting doubles. It's a really good hitter's park. You go back to Angel Stadium of Anaheim, that's a pretty strong pitcher's park. I mean, it's one of the top five or 10 best parks for a pitcher to pitch in, and obviously that means that it's tough for hitters to hit in. So that would definitely be interesting to see. The AL West is going to be really intriguing